Welcome to episode 21 of the Before the Score podcast. I'm Steve Samra. To start off the show today, we have some surprising and sad news. I'm going to throw it to Pablo Hernandez to break it.
Well, Steve, thank you for starting off with me. And although it is kind of surprising, it's not really that sad, especially for somebody like me, who every day, I have a job that, every day I'm always on the front lines. I'm always locked inside. I never know what I'm going to come in contact with or, just what's going to happen. So I always put myself at risk every day. But yeah, it is true. I have tested positive for the COVID-19. It's something that it does sound a little bit scary, and it might not be that big of a deal for somebody like me. I'm very young, but I'm more concerned about the people around me, the people who live in my house. I live in such a big house, but right now I feel so lonely because I can't go anywhere. I'm stuck in my basement. If I wanna get food from upstairs, I need to make a phone call. They need to leave it on the steps. I need to come and get it. I need to put on a mask and wear gloves. It's like I feel like a UFO in my own house. It's so weird. But honestly, this is just like what I've been saying throughout this whole before the score, video chat, throughout this whole era of before the score that we've been going through. I have just been urging everybody to just stay at home and for people to just protect themselves and to wear a PPE and to just take this a little bit more serious, because for somebody like me who's young and might have a good immune system to fight this off, somebody else who is older or has had medical problems might not be so lucky. So that's all I have to say is everybody just stay safe while I fight this off.
Yeah, it's crazy to look back to our last episode we did that wasn't on Zoom or Discord and we were in person. And like 2 minutes before we started the podcast, we found out Rudy Gobert tested positive. And then moving it all the way to today, and now Pablo is tested positive for the coronavirus. It's just kind of crazy to me to see that roller coaster kind of go. And it's nice to see Pablo has taken this with such stride, and he's really focused on beating it. And he's not getting down. He's lonely. He's a UFO, but he's not down. So it's nice to see that.
Well, thank you, Steve. Yeah, you guys noticed I changed my background to Mr. Lonely. Like I said, I feel like a lonely person, but deep down, I really don't feel so lonely because I know there are so many people who have been affected in way worse ways. People have died. People have lost loved ones. So, like I said, my problem might be very small to the world's huge problem, but that's it. I'm not going to keep down. I'm going to keep fighting. And I know, although right now I can't really smell or taste, that's basically the extent of how far the symptoms have gotten to me, aside from a little slight shortness of breath. But I feel fine. I'm very fortunate that those are the only symptoms that I have right now.
So what was the experience like getting tested? I know a lot of people are interested in that side of it because it's been so hard to get tests originally. What was that like going through that whole process?
Well, originally, I actually got tested twice. Originally, the first time I got tested because I came in contact with somebody who had it. So the first time was awful. You drive to like this site, and I was actually lucky because on TV you see there's like a million cars, and I was oh my god, I'm gonna wait 3 hours, but it was like this little site. I'm not sure. I think it was in Marlboro, and you go and like these people they're in like these white suits that look like marshmallows. They have like this thing they tell you just to relax. It's not like needle. It's almost like a popsicle stick or like a
Q-tip.
or like a Q-tip, and they shove it up your nose. Oh my god! And they shove it up both nostrils. It was. I'll tell you what, that hurt, man. That was no joke. And I know I've heard from other people they were tearing up because of the unpleasant nature of how that Q-tip feels. So the first time, obviously, it came back negative. So the second time, I told my dad, I'm like, look, I have symptoms, so I want to set up an appointment to get checked, but I don't want to go through that nose thing again because oh my god, that hurt. and I had to wait, I believe it was like 6 days for it. So I found this thing online. It was in Edison, and it was something where I had to wait about an hour in the car. There were a lot of people, but it's um it's something that was very professional. You drive up and you go through like this little like tunnel thing, and they tell you what to do um while you're in the car. You never roll down the window for anything. So actually you roll it down for a little bit. You like crack your window. They give you like this little cup and you have to spit into it. And then that's it. You spit into it, you put like a little like barcode on it, and you close it up and you shake there's like a fluid that you shake up, and you get your results within 2 to 3 days. So I took the test last Friday. I got my results on Monday that I came back positive. So to me, it didn't really hurt, and it came back like 4 days quicker than the other method that they use. So to me, I thought it worked really well.
So what was the thought process when you got the positive results? You had to have been like, "Holy shit, this is me. It reached me."
Well, honestly, Steve, I've come in contact with so many people who have tested positive. So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about all the symptoms that they've had, and just the way I was feeling. I was like, you know what? If I'm not positive, I'll be shocked. I mean, even when we did our episode on Sunday, I told you guys, I said, look, I might get my results soon, and I feel like I'm positive because just the way I felt in the beginning, man, it was crazy. I felt fine, and then out of nowhere, I came in contact, and then I had like these chills, man. I was shaking in the middle of the night, just shaking and shivering. It felt like it was 10 degrees in my room. And then my head got really warm. And then I'd go from being warm to being cold to being warm to being cold. And I felt so weird. And then out of nowhere, I started getting nauseous. And then it got to the point where my body started getting weak. Like I would stand up and I'm like, oh man, like I felt like I was gonna pass out or I was gonna throw up. And then it was like every day it was a new thing. And then I couldn't smell or I couldn't taste. And then that's basically where I'm at right now. Everything else went away. I can't smell, I can't taste. And thank God the chills went away. The fever, the highest it went to was 99, so not a big deal. But I do feel like a shortness of breath. Not anything too serious, but I feel like as if I were to just be like jogging. That's the kind of like feeling I feel like when I take like a breath. That's basically all my symptoms right now.
Well, it's good that you've had relatively mild symptoms besides the chills, obviously. That sounds kind of terrifying in the middle of the
Yeah,
night.
yeah.
But so let's try to relate it to sports a little bit. So you're somebody that's obviously gone through the whole process of testing and having the disease and being in contact with people with it. How do you think we can get back to playing sports on a regular basis with this in our lives?
Well, number one, and I want to get the rest of you guys involved in this conversation as well. Number one, the way that sports needs to get started up is not by having the fans. And I have stated this many times. You do not really need fans right now to be a part of the action. They will support whatever is going on the field or on the court or whatever. They will support it through watching it at home. I mean, the views that and just the ratings that all sports are going to get are going to be phenomenal through the roof. So I think if you do want to get sports together, if you want to get it back, you need to have it with no fans, and you need to have it in a secure location where all the athletes do not come in contact with anybody from the outside. Whether that be having them in a hotel, whether that be somewhere where they're just secluded from the whole outside world. That's something that they need to do. And I just get mad because I hear the different states talking about, oh, I feel like we could be opening up the economy, the small businesses. I feel like we can be opening it up, the parks. We're not at a point right now where you could be doing that, where you could just be saying, okay, we're going to be having parks open, and you still have to keep your social distance, but for right now you could use the parks. To me, that's not something that's very necessary right now, and I do think we need to be taking more precautions.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people would agree with that point. I think it's definitely a debate. And you see sports, a lot of their plans do involve nobody's really thinking about having fans back yet. And I don't think you really can think like that until we take more steps into eradicating the disease. But Pablo, thank you for sharing your uh, personal thoughts on the disease and allowing us to talk about it to start off the show. We're all rooting for it to get better. It seems you're on the upswing, so we're happy about that, of course. Let's get into some news on sports leagues and how they're going to be combating this. Let's start off with some good news because NASCAR is returning May 17th. Breaking news just out today. They're going to be racing at Darlington starting on May 17th. They're going to be doing races twice a week and no fans will be allowed. So, Dan, I know you love NASCAR. I want to know, what are your thoughts on NASCAR being the first sport to really return to no fans?
Well, the way you look at it, I feel like the way it's structured, you have, a certain amount of drivers. You don't really have that many people involved, so I could see why this would be the first thing to come back. Of course, the money side of it, not having fans is going to be a problem, but you got to get past that. I like how they're doing multiple races at the same racetrack. It makes it a lot less hectic, a lot less traveling. Then they're going to go to another track, do a couple races there, and it's all in a short span, very close environment. So as long as you keep testing the athletes or the drivers, as long as you keep having contact, like making sure they don't have symptoms, it can be done. So I'm glad NASCAR is the first one to go with this. We see the UFC is trending in that direction of where they're going to be able to do close quarter structures of fights. So, I'm happy, but it's going to be a little different from what we're all used to.
Andrew, tell me, are you going to be watching NASCAR now that it's going to be the only thing on? Oh, is Andrew frozen? Or is Andrew's either frozen or ignoring me. So, Pablo, you tell me, are you going to be watching some NASCAR?
Well, I'll fill in for Andrew. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I've never really really watched NASCAR before. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm not a big NASCAR guy. I think that, if it's on, I'll definitely look at it. It's not something I'm really excited for, but it's going to be something for other people who do enjoy the sport to gain some sense of normality, because I do need to watch something. I need to watch some type of storyline other than the Breaking Bad episode that I'm watching right now. So I would like to watch something on TV.
I agree with that. Me and Dan obviously are more into NASCAR than anybody in the podcast, but we are going to, obviously I'll be watching. I really think that will be good for NASCAR to be the first sport really back besides wrestling and UFC. But them being back might make them go into a whole different demographic and might get them new fans that never were even into NASCAR before.
Exactly. So what's going to be funny about it is you have a lot of people that like to bet, to say the least. So more people are going to be watching NASCAR because it's one of the only things they get sports bet on. So the amount of fans that they should actually gain from this is going to be pretty funny. And to see these normal people in our lives that we're friends with that don't really watch a sport, like Pablo, pick a driver now and we could talk NASCAR with, some people, it's going to be pretty funny and it's going to grow the sport.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to watch that. Another thing, on sticking with some NASCAR news, a little different thing to start off the podcast, is that Matt Kenseth is going to be driving the 42 car, replacing Kyle Larson. So what are your thoughts on Kenseth coming out of retirement?
Well, you see like the trend of older drivers. You have the Jeff Gordons, the Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s, hopefully not Jimmy Johnson, but we'll see how things shake up in the coming years. A lot of drivers who retire from the sport and come back and fill in for a certain number. Even if you don't follow NASCAR, you probably heard the news about Kyle Larson and his use of language and losing his sponsors and his drive, essentially. So bringing in Matt Kenseth, he is a very good ambassador to the sport. He's been training, doing marathons. He's still in good shape. And little do you know, if you don't follow NASCAR, you do got to be a good athlete to be in these cars. So the fact that Kenseth is in shape and he's obviously a great driver, we've seen it. Hopefully the passion's still there. If he's taking the 42 car, then the passion's probably still going to be there. It's Chip Ganassi, it's a very good drive he's getting. So I think it works out for everyone.
And the thing about Kenseth is that he never even wanted to retire. He was kind of pushed out by Joe Gibbs for Eric Jones to replace him. So it was kind of sad to see a former champion go out kind of on his ass. And now he raced with Roush Fenway Racing last year for a bit. it's going to be cool to see him and Kurt Busch as teammates again for a whole season. And another thing about that is that him and Ryan Newman, who you may know got injured pretty terribly at Daytona, but he'll be able to race May 17th. They both are getting championship waivers similar to what Kyle Busch got. So even though they missed 4 races, they're still eligible for the playoffs. So
well, actually, guys, I don't think that these guys get enough credit for the type of line, the line of work that they do. It is extremely dangerous, and you brought it up earlier. This is something where you could lose your life racing cars. You could literally. It's not all about just driving around in circles. You need to have some serious type of hand-eye coordination, and you need to be really smart with the way you make the turns around the bend and the corners, and this is very serious stuff. But I always had this question, right? And this is before the scores, so we do talk about sports. Do you really need fans for a NASCAR event? I mean, is it really that serious? I mean, these guys, they drive cars. That's something where they already are kind of social distancing. So I really don't think it's something that affects their sport too much.
Do you really need fans for baseball, though? I mean, baseball, you see home field advantage doesn't even really matter. You come to these last playoffs, it's all money. I mean, NASCAR makes money, baseball makes money, football makes money from fans. So that's essentially what the fans do for the sport. It pushes it into a better direction because it has some more revenue.
And Pablo, let me tell you something, because one day when this is all over with and we can all go to another NASCAR race, you're going to come with us and you're going to see why fans need to be allowed at NASCAR, because it is arguably the most fun that you're going to have at any sporting event. You're going to have a great time. I guarantee it.
I get what you guys are saying, that maybe the fans thing is not what I should have brought up. But what I really meant to say was, why isn't NASCAR going on right now? Aside from the financial point of this, we're not having any fans, and they're not making as much money. They are already social distancing. So I think that they are a sport that should have really just always continued. There should be no fall off like there is right now. So the fact that they are racing, the fact that that's news is kind of shocking to me, because I would have felt that something like NASCAR would have never even – I thought there would have been no doubts anyway.
Well, and the trend of it, like you look at the trend of it, I mean, the UFC want to keep going on, and they got a lot of backlash for wanting to continue their fights. And essentially the Disney CEO had to tell Dana White to stop the fight. So it's the same thing with NASCAR, where, yes, there's not as many people, but you do have pit crews. You do have garages where there's a lot of workers behind the scenes that are part of the whole sport, essentially. So it's not just the drivers. So they kind of were a little pressured to, close it, because every other sport was, shutting down for a certain amount of time.
Well, also the CDC said they didn't want any large gatherings. And NASCAR, even with no fans, that's 40 teams, at least 10 to 15 people per team. Do the math there, and that's a really large gathering. So even without the fans, so that's why they really shut down NASCAR. But what they need to do is just cut the track off from everybody outside the sport, test everybody before they go in, everybody when they leave, and then the sport will be able to go pretty seamlessly. I think NASCAR is in a good position to keep their season going on, even if somebody tests positive, because they can really they know where the source is. So I think that will be one of NASCAR's biggest positives. They have track of everybody. And like Dan said, I think this is going to be great for NASCAR. I think we'll get some new fans out of it. But moving on from NASCAR to the NBA. The NBA is thinking about playing the rest of their season in Disneyland. So that's something that I would be interested in seeing. So what are your guys' thoughts on that?
Well, Disney World.
Yeah.
Disney World. Yeah. So, you look at the whole scape of it, that's a great idea. Disney and ABC and ESPN are such a big part of the NBA to start with. So if Disney could make some money off the NBA playing in their cities, you're having them stay at hotels. Disney World is still shut down. So this is a pretty good idea, because the way the NBA is structured, they're going to be able to house everyone. They're going to be able to feed everyone. They're going to be able to, play all these games at Disney World, because they have so many places you can play. So I think it's a great idea as long as you keep everyone locked in. As weird as that sounds, it has to be locked in. No one else could come out. You keep with the mass testing every week for people that have symptoms. Like, I mean, I sound like a broken record, but this is a good idea.
Well, I think it's funny, right? So when you hear that they're thinking about having the season, the conclusion of the season at Disney World, a lot of people are making it seem like they're going to be playing in front of the castle. I mean, I do think it's a great idea because you do want to get this season over with. So I love it. I'm not sure where they would play. I'm sure they have obviously they own ESPN, ABC. They're a giant partnership. So obviously they have places where they could do it. So I do think it would be awesome, and I would love to see something where they would air it on an ABC, on an ESPN, on some type of Disney channel. I think that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, and then of course Disney World, you have so many different kind of resorts. There are a lot worse places you could be quarantined than Disney World. So I think that would be really cool to see the NBA stars all go on like a 3-month vacation to finish their season. And I think you could do a lot worse than that if you were the NBA.
I'll tell you what, it would make for a I'm sorry, Steve. It would make for a very interesting like documentary series, just to see all the players and just their journey and their story. And I think it'd be awesome if they had something where they would just ride the rides. That'd be cool. I'd pay to watch that.
I don't know if the rides are going to be open, but we'll see about that. Andrew, are you back? Are you with us?
I think I'm back for good. My Wi-Fi was acting up a little bit, so I went on data on my phone. So I think I'm good.
All right. Do you have any thoughts on the NBA possibly playing their season in Disney?
In Disney? Yeah, I mean, Disney in Florida or in California? I'm guessing Orlando.
World, yeah.
Disney World.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, you talk about the MLB, they're rumored to think about going the spring training facilities in Florida anyway. So I mean, I think Florida they kind of narrowed down as one of the better states to go to. So I mean, I'm for that. Whatever they can do, I'm sure they'll figure something out. So if they see Florida as a fit, then I mean, I'm all for it.
Yeah, although Florida's starting to reopen, which all these sports are targeting Florida because they're allowed to do it. You see the trends of the virus actually going down in Florida. Hopefully that stays the same. But I mean, you got to expect it might ramp up a little bit with all this stuff reopening. But another point I want to make about Disney World is I think they have a lot of options where they could really do this well because, I mean, how cool would it be to see like a court right in the Magic Kingdom, right in front of the castle, and they're playing a game in the playoffs? Like having some cool backgrounds to actually make it worthwhile to watch and really get into it, even though there's no crowd. Like I think having a cool background, like Dana White doing Fight Island, like that could have a cool background. People are going to be intrigued to watch things when they're in such a cool setting.
That's exactly what I was thinking too. You need to be creative, and that's exactly what even WWE has been doing with, if anybody hasn't seen their Money in the Bank pay-per-view, which usually takes place in the ring with ladders, climbing the ladder. It's one of the best pay-per-views of the year. This year, it's taking place at the WWE headquarters, and you have to climb from the bottom of the headquarters all the way. It's like a 10-story building to the top of the building where there's a ring on top of the roof, and you have to climb a ladder up there and get the briefcase. That's going to be some amazing visuals.
I'll tell you something about that, Steve. When is that? When is the
That's actually May 10th, so it will be not this Sunday but next Sunday.
Oh, man, so I might still be home for that. But I think for something like that, it's going to be something where it's going to be kind of like the Boneyard match or the Firefly Funhouse match. So I think it's going to be something cinematic. I don't think you're going to have a circus match where you're just going to see a whole bunch of people run up and down, the corporate offices. So you'll see. And remember, I said that you'll see. It's not going to be a real match.
No, I actually think that it being cinematic could be better for it too, though. So who knows? They're already filming stuff for it, so they have it all set up, and I think it could be really special what they come up with. Could be cool. That's something that I want to see. But moving from the NBA to the MLB, the newest plan that has leaked is a 3-division plan where the Mets, Yankees, Red Sox are all in one division. Pablo, you got to tell me, how would you be able to like this plan?
Well, we spoke about this a few weeks ago. about the other plan, the other proposed deal that they were talking about, where the divisions just didn't make any sense. It just didn't make sense at all. I don't have it on me at this.
The Mets were like with the Astros. It was all the spring training complexes that were close together. Yeah. Yes,
the Astros were with the Nationals. It was just the Yankees were with like the Pirates and the Tigers, where they would have won 150 games in that season. But I don't like the fact that American League or National League are together. But for something like this, under these extreme circumstances, I think it's fine. Because you do have the East with the East, the Central with the Central, the West with the West. So in my opinion, if you were to do this for 1 year, I would be absolutely fine with it, just to get baseball started, just so we don't have a loss. Because right now it is April 30th, and we haven't seen any baseball games. So we have lost a lot of baseball content. So I am hungry and thirsty, and I am in just dire need to get some type of sport, especially my favorite sport, baseball, back on track.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think if you polled every baseball fan in America, I think a majority of them would say that they want it back no matter what the divisions are, no matter how they structure it. They just want to see some live action, some live baseball played this year. So, I mean, in that boat, I understand, like, I really don't care that much about what the division would be. I don't care if the Mets have to play the Yankees 30 times a year. I don't care if they have to play the Orioles a bunch of times. So I'm not really that like upset about like the interleague play. But if I did, like, the one scenario that I liked, like, because all these options are all like theoretical. Like, no one's actually like discussed like a front runner for these. So I think one of the first plans with every team in Arizona, I think I like that one more because I mean, like the Arizona plan.
All right, Zonak, you're back. Z? Oh, it's still recording. All right, so I guess.
Can you guys see me when I do this or no?
No.
So it's still recording?
All right.
We'll just cut in between and then just start with your first point of
all right, so
the Arizona thing, because that's where you were.
Oh, wait, shit, my mic wasn't on. I'm just going to do a countdown from 5. Steve, I'm probably not going to be able to edit it tonight because I have to record for my stream. And I'm playing with Mac after, so you're probably going to have to do it tonight. I'll send you I'll send you, and then
yeah, Andrew, you're talking about the Arizona plan. Just start with the first thing.
All right, I'm going to count down. Steve, just cut out after I say 1, wait a second, and start talking, all right?
Well, Andrew will start.
All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Now, while I'll take any baseball at this point, like I just said, like anything to get some games in right now, I just got to watch something. I think a majority of fans really wouldn't care. But I mean, all these these plans, like nothing's set in stone. Like they're all theoretical. So you can kind of like I don't know. It's hard to compare them because no one knows for sure what they're gonna do. But the one that did sound makes the most sense to me. I don't know if that's still like an option because it's been a couple of weeks since we discussed this. Was the plan to play all 30 teams in Arizona, and that kind of wouldn't shake up the divisions that much since they're all in the same state. They're all using the same stadium, so you can kind of keep the divisions the same and just kind of have that controlled environment of all the teams. So like I know there's a bunch of plans. Like people are saying that they can play in their home stadiums, but then the travel doesn't make any sense. Or like the Cactus League. I think that sounds goofy. I think that kind of takes away from like a title for whoever wins. Like say someone wins like the Cactus League instead of the National League. Like that's gonna be like an asterisk. Like for the rest of like that, you can't like hang like a banner up for the Cactus League. It's just gonna sound like wrong, I guess.
Yeah, any way you shake it, something's going to be different with this. And I mean, I'm a pretty big baseball purist, so having the Yankees and the Mets in the same division, I don't like that at all. I like the National League staying the National League and the American League staying the American League, and having one of each team play in the World Series and win a World Series. Like, I don't like the idea of interleague play becoming non-interleague play. You know what I mean? Like, it just makes it more confusing when you look back at the history books and you see, oh, the Mets and the Yankees played three-game series, 3-game series this season. They were in the same division. They have division. They're competing against each other in a division. I just don't like that. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I bet there's a way they could figure this out where you keep it the same divisions or a mold of the same divisions, maybe having 2 National League divisions and 2 American League divisions or something like that, and having the best 2 teams from each make the playoffs and just having it, that way. So, I mean, it's up to the MLB. We'll see what they come up with. But at this point, I mean, I'm turning the corner and being like, all right, let's just get some games underway.
Well, now, I get that. I get both. I get all those points where you guys want it to stay normal, but nothing is normal right now. I want it to get crazy as crazy can get. I don't care what they do. I don't care if they do 3 doubleheaders in one day. They need to come up with something memorable and that will get people to tune in. No matter what they do, it's not going – whoever wins this World Series, to them, it's going to feel like the World Series, but to everybody else, it's not going to be taken like that. That's my opinion, and I think that if it's a Mets-Nationals World Series, I'd be good with that. I think that'd be interesting. They'd win the most unique World Series title of all time. That's what it is. It's unique.
Well, that could happen way if they're going to be playing in the same division.
Well, obviously, we would think about that.
But either way, even if you keep the division same and you play in Arizona, it's still gonna have an asterisk next to it. No one's gonna value it as an actual legit World Series, especially if you play 70 games in the season and then have a 16 team playoff. It's gonna be goofy regardless. So I mean, I get wanting to shake it up, but I mean, unless that's absolutely necessary, I'd rather just keep the names the same so you can keep a little bit of normalcy, so it feels a little bit the same from what we've done for the past 130 years.
But if it's not going to be the same, then what's the point of even playing the season? I mean, if we're going to look back and be like, oh, that season was stupid, that this and this happened, that doesn't count. Then why even play the season? Why bother at that point?
It feels like an actual season, so players are actually motivated to win. If you're just if you make it the Cactus League versus the Grapefruit League, and you have the Mets and the Yankees in the same division, and you're not going to call it a World Series, what the hell are these people playing for? Who's going to play through an ankle injury to get a Cactus League pennant?
Yeah.
Hey, if it pays the same as a World Series and it looks the same as a World Series, then it's a World Series.
Well, guys,
it doesn't look the same as a World Series.
Hey.
I'm gonna play a little bit of devil's advocate here, and I hope to God I'm not right. What if we never get back to normal society? What if this is just
there we go?
What if this is just the new normal that everybody has to social distance, that everybody has to wear a mask? We need to get some type of baseball going. So regardless if this only happens this year or if it continues for a year or two, 2020 will never be looked upon as a normal year. So the fact that we just keep going back and forth where this isn't how it should be, I'm a purist, it should be this way. In my mind, I've given that all up because I just want to have some type of sports. I just want to have some type of baseball going. So I don't care if the Yankees are in the same division as the Mets. I don't care if the Yankees are in the same division as the Marlins. to me, it doesn't matter because the world is not normal right now. So why do we need to have a normal division where, just to satisfy the baseball fans who don't want anything to change?
Okay, I see your banner as a Yankees fan, and you're gonna tell me that you wouldn't be pissed off with this loaded Yankees roster. You just signed Garrett Cole. Like, it's like the best team, yes, Yankee team that you've seen since probably 2009. You wouldn't be pissed if the one year you finally win that World Series, it's as a part of the Cactus League?
Well, I
wouldn't bother you as a Yankee fan?
I don't like the Cactus League, Grapefruit League thing. I don't
You just
like
said
that.
you don't care. You just said you don't care. You just want to see baseball.
No, yeah. Well, I do want to see. I'm talking about.
So if you played the Twins in the World Series, you'd be
you
okay with
beat the Twins in the World
yourself
Series
as a World Series champion.
Hey! Listen, it's the World Series. If it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, looks like a duck, it must be a duck. It's the World Series. It's still the World Series, and it's the most unique World Series of all time.
Convince me.
And I'll tell you what.
The Mets beat the Cubs in the World Series.
Will ever forget it. That's the thing.
That's
true.
I would put my house on the line because the Twins could never.
Oh my God! It was
touch the Yankees in the
playoffs.
I shouldn't have brought the Yankees into this.
Knowing our luck,
the Mets any other team besides the Twins.
That's what I'm saying. As a Mets fan, like, all right, it kind of like kills a lot of the excitement for the like, oh wow, if they do actually for some reason go on a run this year, it's like not even going to mean anything to 90% of the league. No one's going to care.
We're not going to see another World Series for 50 more years.
Well, we couldn't see the Red Sox and Mets, so that stupid argument that they always want me to. They always throw at me so I can say something.
Because you answer it wrong every time.
It's not.
Right. Well, listen, all 30 teams still have the same chance to win whatever the hell they call it. So that's what I look at it as. No matter what, your team has a chance. They're in it. They have a shot, and that means they were the best team that year. No matter what the rules were, no matter what happened, like I said, nobody will ever forget this. This will be the most. It may not be the most exciting World Series. It might not be a good thing, but to me, if the Mets won the World Series, it wouldn't be what I'm expecting because I'm expecting to go crazy, go to the parade, be at a game or something, But if I can't, and this is all I have to do, I'd rather it than no World Series.
There wouldn't even be a parade.
All right, look, I'll tell you what.
Eventually, there would be a parade.
A 2021 parade.
A virtual parade could be kind of fire.
Virtual, that would not be fire.
If the Astros could win the World Series by using buzzers and by stealing signs and by
never ends.
Then the Mets can very well win the World Series on a shortened season where they beat the Dodgers in the World Series.
Which one would mean more to you? Which one would mean more to you?
So to be honest, does it really matter if they cheated? Does it matter if they won in a shortened season? No. All that matters is that they won the World Series. Whether or not you want to call it the Grapefruit League World Series or the Cactus Jack League World Series, it doesn't matter because at the end of the day, you play for the ship and you won the ship. Okay, so that's it. That's all you can go.
Pablo,
whatever a team plays and wins,
it talks like a duck. That's what it is.
Whatever a team wins it's going to always have an asterisk. You can't deny that there's going to be an asterisk next to that team's name for that win.
I just brought up the Astros, and you already know what happened with them, and they won the World Series, and that's in the record books. This year, whoever wins the World Series, it's going to be in the record books. 2020 was perhaps one of the top 5 craziest years of this planet's history.
Top 5?
We lived through it. Okay, we lived through it.
How would you know? You weren't there for a lot of the years.
Yeah. What would be the other 4 in your top 5? What? Jesus Christ being born?
the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Christopher Columbus discovering a new world,
and then the coronavirus in 2020 would be.
It's
not even a top 5. It's not even a top 5 plague.
There was a black plague, dude.
It's not even a top 5 plague.
Died.
Of the modern era, like WWE likes to throw it out.
Modern era.
Yeah, modern era. Okay, top 5 of the modern era.
Top 5 moments since like 2010.
All right, well, let's move on to the NFL because there was a lot of football news to digest. We did a lot of the draft. We skipped over some other stuff. But some breaking news from today is that the Bengals released Andy Dalton. So I want to hear some of your guys' landing spots for the Red Rocket.
Well, everybody's going to say the first thing that comes to mind for everybody has to be the Patriots because they have the biggest need at quarterback out of all of the teams that like can sign him. And as a Jets fan, I want them to sign Andy Dalton mainly because they wouldn't sign Cam Newton at that point. Because my biggest fear is that they sign Cam Newton. Cam Newton gets healthy and has 4 straight years of very solid play. So, I mean, personally, Andy Dalton has always kind of killed the Jets, besides when they play in the playoffs against that was Carson Palmer. Never mind. Anyways, yeah, I wouldn't mind Andy Dalton on the Patriots because that's the biggest fit. But, I mean, another team would also be the Jaguars because, I mean, they have Minshew, but they don't really have like another like competition because they traded Nick Foles, so they can use kind of that veteran to bring in competition and get the most out of Minshew.
Well, also with Andy Dalton and the Jaguars, they have Jay Gruden, who was his offensive coordinator in Cincinnati. So that's another connection. And he also helped Dalton have some of the best years of his career. But I think Andy Dalton is actually, I'm not going to go out and say he's a great quarterback because he's not a great quarterback, but he's kind of underrated. Those Bengals teams were really good. They were one of the best teams in the AFC for a couple years. And if it wasn't for the Patriots being so good at that same time and Vontaze Burfict completely blowing a couple playoff games, those Bengals teams could have made at least an AFC Championship game run. They were not bad teams. And Dalton's injury that year also hampered them. But I think if Dalton goes to the Patriots, honestly, he fits more what they're trying to do than Cam Newton. I would love to see Cam in New England because I think Cam could be special with Josh McDaniels. But I think Dalton would be more of a seamless fit. But if I had to predict somewhere Andy Dalton's going to go, I agree with you in the Jaguars. But at the same time, I don't think the Jaguars are really trying to win this year. I think they're trying to get Trevor Lawrence. And I do think they're going to get Lawrence. I think if they really wanted to win, they would have took somebody and they would have took Tua or tried to trade up for him or something. But I don't think they're really – this is a rebuilding year for the Jaguars.
Yeah, the way I look at it, you got to see first with the Patriots. I mean, they have the most glaring team. They're the most glaring team with a quarterback issue of any team in the league. So they have to assess, is Andy Dalton still a starting caliber quarterback? And, I mean, he played 9 years in Cincinnati. He's looking like he's past his prime, and he's more of a veteran face for an organization. So I think he's better suited, maybe behind a young quarterback, which could, the team could pay him a little bit of money to mentor a young quarterback. You could go to a place like the Browns. You could go to a place like the Chargers. I know they have Tyrod Taylor there starting, but adding another Andy Dalton would really help Herbert. Even the Dolphins with Fitzpatrick and Dalton in the same room would be good. You look at the Browns, or did I say the Browns? You look at there's like the Bills. You look at a lot of places that could really try to progress your young quarterback by bringing in a veteran face and really moving up their career. Maybe, someone gets hurt and Dalton can come in and start and maybe shock some people and get a 1-year, 2-year deal after it. So I don't think the Patriots are the most likely landing spot, to be honest. I really don't think Bill Belichick's going to go after Andy Dalton.
I actually think Tennessee would be a good landing spot for Andy Dalton. As we all know, Ryan Tannehill has some pretty long injury history, and he just got the big contract, but you never know with him. Also, Arizona might be in the market for a backup quarterback. I don't know if he really fits Cliff Kingsbury's idea of a quarterback but Brett Hundley is in some lawsuit right now, and he's their backup, so they might be looking for another backup. Or even the LA Rams, man. I think if he went to the Rams, he's very similar to Jared Goff. He might even be more I wouldn't say more talented than Jared Goff, but Goff did not have a good year last year. I think if Andy Dalton went up with Sean McVay, who knows? Who knows? If Goff goes down, I think he could win them a couple games.
Yeah, he has more experience than Goff. He's more polished as a quarterback. He has the overall game experience, even you could say playoff experience. So with Goff, it's a work in progress with Goff. And you saw the setback from last year. I don't know if the McVay magic is running out or if Jared Goff is just extremely overpaid. So we're going to have to see.
I mean, you look at the Bengals last year when Andy Dalton got benched for Ryan Finley, they took like 20 steps down as an offense. They couldn't move the ball. I mean, when Andy Dalton was in there, he wasn't the problem last year. I mean, they were awful last year, but that was like 75% their defense was the problem. Yeah. They had arguably the worst offensive line in football, and they still put up like decent numbers. I mean, Andy Dalton won me a fantasy football league, so I don't know. I might be on the Andy Dalton train.
Yeah, and AJ Green's absence too. Their best playmaker was out. Yeah, with Joe Mixon injuries as well. Yeah.
he did kind of get a raw deal at the end of his Cincinnati career after doing so much for the Bengals. I know one Bengals fan, one, and that's probably the only one I'll ever meet, but he loves Andy Dalton. He wishes him the best. He's very excited for Joe Burrow. And the Bengals, it's kind of underrated. They're lucky. They went from Andy Dalton, who was he was a franchise quarterback. He had a good career for the Bengals, and now they're getting another franchise quarterback. It's not exactly on the level of Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck, but it's pretty good for the Bengals. They have one bad year. We'll see what Zach Taylor's made of too this year. I don't know if I've ever seen the Bengals get so much hype in my life, but with Joe Burrow, they're going to be a fixture on ESPN.
Yeah, favorite Andy Dalton memory real quick. I think it was 2 years ago. I was in Colorado. I was watching the last game of the season. I think they were playing the Ravens possibly, and they beat the Ravens, and then the Bills got into the playoffs that way because Andy Dalton had some magic as of late.
Yeah, that was a great game. That was the last game of the year.
Yeah.
And then the other piece of quarterback news in the NFL I wanted to touch on is Brett Favre thinks Aaron Rodgers will leave the Packers before mentoring Jordan Love. So how many more years do you have Aaron Rodgers on the Packers for?
I got him for 2 more years. You look at his contract, the contract hits. They got to pay him. His next 2 years. He's still a high caliber quarterback. He's a top 5 quarterback in this league, no doubt. Maybe he wants to leave. See, that's what we're not thinking as of now. You see, if you're in Aaron Rodgers' shoes, you don't draft a receiver. You draft that backup quarterback. You're like, why do I want to stay with the Packers? They still have a window. They were 13-3 last year. They still have a very good team. So you go at it for maybe 2 more years, and then you do mentor Jordan Love. You make him a good quarterback because you want to get the hell out of there. And you could go to a place, there's a lot of options you could go to. You look at the Saints. Maybe the Saints don't have a quarterback figured out. Maybe Jameis Winston isn't the biggest surprise quarterback that they want. And they could go have him work with Sean Payton. There's a lot of options that Aaron Rodgers could even explore. Even maybe Kirk Cousins doesn't work out in Minnesota. You bring him. Brett Favre went to Minnesota. Might as well bring Aaron Rodgers to Minnesota. So he's going to, in 2 more years, a lot of teams are going to become calling about Aaron Rodgers. That is no doubt for sure that's going to happen.
I don't see this as like a scenario with Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes where Mahomes sits for just 1 year and then the next year he gets the keys to the car. I don't see this with the Packers because Love's a lot more raw of a prospect and a lot less underdeveloped as a prospect than Mahomes was when he got drafted. And I mean, Rodgers is playing at a much higher level than Alex Smith was. So I say at minimum 2 years that Aaron will be there. I think probably 2 to 3 years. I think after 2 or 3 years, they'll probably they'll know for sure what they have in Jordan Love. They'll see that either he can replace Aaron Rodgers and at a much cheaper cost, or he's just not the guy. And they took a chance on a guy with high upside and it just didn't work out. So, I mean, either way, I don't like the pick I'm not going to pull a pun there and say love the pick, but I get what they're thinking. They're kind of getting progressive and they don't want to wait too long to get that quarterback if they really like a guy. So, I mean, I think no one really knows for sure right now is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and I think I like what Dan said about Rodgers naming some of his teams. If he follows in Favre's footsteps, maybe goes to Minnesota, I think that would cause a riot in Green Bay. But Rodgers, yeah, at this point, he's been kind of on the outs. You kind of see that he does. I don't know if he really is enjoying it anymore. It doesn't. Last year, he just didn't seem like the same quarterback to me. I don't know what it was. The team was winning. Maybe he just didn't want to do as much because he knew he could win with less. But even at the NFC Championship game, it just didn't seem like it was the same Aaron Rodgers. I think that had a lot to do with him not having a wide receiver. And I thought one of the interesting stats I saw was that Aaron Rodgers has only thrown 1 touchdown pass to a first-round pick in his entire career. That's crazy to me. That his entire career, the Packers never drafted him a receiver in the first round. Something that would have been kind of obvious to do. Something any of us would have done if we were the GM. So I think if Rodgers leaves, he has some good options. I think San Francisco, if they don't have a backup for Jimmy G in place, that would be a scary offense. But Rodgers would be 38 by then. So we'll see what he's up to. Maybe Jarrett Stidham doesn't work out in New England and he goes up there. Imagine the storylines, Aaron Rodgers and Bill Belichick together.
Yeah, what has the Packers organization done for Aaron Rodgers in these last 10 years since they won a Super Bowl? pretty much nothing. Yeah, you're getting to NFC championship games. You're getting to the playoffs, but you can't get over that hump. And we've seen it time and time again where the Packers can't get over that hump. So if you're Aaron Rodgers, it might be time for a new face of a team. Like, you look at the whole Mike McCarthy situation, tensions are glaring between the two, and that doesn't work out. Then you get Matt LaFleur, and in his very first drafts your successor. So obviously this relationship between LaFleur and Rodgers is not going to work. So time to move on. And yeah, in a couple of years, I see no other way about that.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of Jerry Reese and Eli Manning with the way that they just never really built a great team around Aaron Rodgers in the way that they should have. And some of that may be his contract and not want to take less, but you want to get paid what you're paid, and the salary cap, you can always work around it. Look at a team like the Saints. Look at a team like the Chiefs. They always work around it. Even the Rams. I don't even know where the Rams get this money from. They just always have money.
They finally started getting rid of a lot of those big contracts. So I think finally starting to see like the consequences of every offseason trading a first round pick for somebody and giving them $15 million.
For a while, it was a little crazy that the Rams were picking everybody up.
Yeah.
But CeeDee Lamb on the other side, he's going to be wearing number 88, the legendary wide receiver number for the Cowboys. But it was said that he wanted to wear number 10, and Jerry Jones made him wear 88. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I mean, I like it. Obviously, Jerry has a lot of faith in CeeDee Lamb of putting on the number 88. And, I mean, CeeDee is an extraordinary talent that the Cowboys have got at such a late pick for him, his draft ceiling. I think the 88 is going to suit him well. I think he's going to look good in the 88, and I think he might be one of the best players in Cowboys history to wear the 88. I mean, he's got big shoes to fill, as you could see from that number, but he's an exceptional talent, and hopefully it's not like a big spotlight like taking the number 7 at Man United where players can't wear it. It's just too much to fill. I think CeeDee rises to the expectations, becomes a very good player for the Cowboys in the future.
Well, I think that number 88, especially in the sport of football, is a superstars type number. It's a, in other sports, you have the number 23, you have the number 2, you have the number 3, you have the number 25. Certain numbers, the 99, certain numbers just say, whoa, look at this guy. This guy's a star. You don't just give out numbers like that to anybody. So I do think that Jerry Jones has a lot of faith that this guy could be one of their franchise leaders going forward. So I love that. I love that sense of confidence. I love that not a target, but almost like a, hey, look at me. Look, I'm going to be one of the best stars, one of the best up-and-coming players in this league. I do like it.
Yeah, I would definitely take it as a compliment if I'm CeeDee Lamb. I think that you're being compared to Michael Irvin and you're being compared to Dez Bryant, who are two of the best receivers in Cowboys history. And Jerry Jones, he saw enough in you to draft you over some glaring needs at safety in the first round, and he wanted you, and he wants you to be one of those greats. So I really see CeeDee Lamb being one of those greats and being able to fill those shoes. Disappointing for me as a Giants fan to say that, but I really am nervous to have to go against CeeDee Lamb the next couple years.
Yeah, it's definitely big shoes to fill. But I mean, if there's any like perfect scenario to have to fill those types of shoes, it's where like CeeDee Lamb's in right now. Like, yeah, I get you're being compared to Dez Bryant and Michael Irvin, but then again, you have one of the best offensive lines. You have Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup lining up next to you. You have a good enough quarterback in Dak Prescott. I mean, if like, I know the pressure's on him, but I don't even see a scenario where he's like that bad. So, I mean, it's tough to be put in those shoes, but I mean, he's in like the absolute perfect spot to actually do it.
Yeah, I think he'll have a lot of success in Dallas, especially in the beginning, because he has so many other options that defenses have to worry about that he's going to get some single coverage and he'll be able to beat it. To finish up this episode, I wanted to touch on your guys. I know we're all in quarantine and we're all watching TV shows, we're all watching movies. Let's relate it to sports a little bit. I want to hear you guys' favorite sports movies before we sign off. Oof. Dan, I know you're a movie buff, but you were telling me before you're not a big sports movie fan. You got to explain that.
Well, I mean, you have the type of movies where they could be like kind of documentaries or, past things, which are cool. I mean, you look at like 30 for 30s on ESPN. I love to watch real things, but when you take a storyline and you make it fake, I'm not the biggest believer in that. It's hard to, look at that and be like, oh, that's a real thing, even though it's fake. So I'm more of a movie purist where I like to watch movies that are about fake stories, but about things I don't know about. So, sports I know so much about. When you're seeing something fake, I don't relate to it as much as something I don't know about. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but that's the best way I could put it.
Well, what would you make your favorite sports movie? You movie purist, if you even watch them.
That's the thing. I'd rather have a sports comedy movie at that point. I would rather laugh and enjoy the movie. Like,
let's hear it. What's it going to be? Let's hear it.
Like, I love The Longest Yard. It's a very funny movie. Like Adam Sandler, a quarterback in a prison against guards. I like that a lot.
I never seen it.
You never seen The Longest Yard?
I never seen it.
Are you kidding me?
Has to do with your job. You have to watch it now. You have time.
You'll be playing in that one day.
Yeah. Playing tackle.
No, I've seen Pablo play football. I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Summer QB camp is on YouTube. Look that up if you want to see Pablo play some football. Yeah, but Longest Yard, that's good. There's some WWE wrestlers with Stone Cold and Great Khali and even Goldberg. So I know Pablo loves his WWE legends. He might like that movie.
I don't like two of those legends are atrocious. Great Khali can't even move, dude.
Yeah,
calling Great Khali a legend is generous. So
I've thought of one that's actually based on a true story with Jake LaMotta. He was a boxer back in, I think, the 50s or 60s or something like that. And it's Raging Bull, starring Robert De Niro. Martin Scorsese, one of his first films he directed. So it is in black and white, but they do that on purpose. I mean, they had color at the time, but they did it in black and white. That's a very good story. It's all true. I didn't know about it, so I really enjoyed that movie.
Well, playing off that, let me go next. I'll talk about my movie. And there is no better sports movie in the history of sports movies. This is one of the best movies of all time. And I was taken aback when Dan told me he never saw this. And it's Rocky II. Rocky II is the greatest sports movie there is. Not even close. You have to see Rocky 1 before Rocky 2.
You've never seen Rocky?
Yeah.
Wait, I've seen Rocky 1. I've seen Rocky 1. I didn't really enjoy it that much.
You've only seen Rocky 1? You've never seen 2, 3, 4, 5, Rocky Balboa, Creed 1, Creed 2? You've never seen it?
I know there's 8 of them, but no, I've only seen 1 of 8.
No, I'm currently in the process of rewatching them all. I've seen them all, rewatching them all. Just watched Rocky 5 last night. Can't talk about how much I hate Tommy Gunn more. But Rocky 2, it's just so good.
Look. Rocky 2 is a great movie. Rocky 5 clearly is the worst movie of all of them. But if you want to get excited about a Rocky movie, it's Rocky 4. Rocky 4 is the movie.
Rocky 4 is amazing.
Rocky 4 is the movie that sits on the shelf, and when you look at it, you get like a little sparkle in your eye, and you have to pick it up and put it into your Blu-ray player, because that is a movie that there's just something about it. The soundtrack, just the training. The training montages in the mountains, you have Ivan Drago, Rocky Balboa, you have Apollo Creed and that storyline. That is a movie right there.
Rocky 4 is good, but the soundtrack is what I don't like about Rocky 4.
It doesn't have
the soundtrack. No, it doesn't have the same feel as the first 3. That's the problem with it. The first,
you know what? Part 3, I don't know. I can't get behind part 3 as much because I cannot stand Mr. T.
I like Clubber Lang.
Oh my God, I can't stand him, man.
He was good in
that movie.
Now I loved how I don't know if I want to spoil it for Dan, but
I mean, I guess I'm gonna eventually have to watch. I'm not the biggest Sylvester Stallone guy, so
dude,
here we go.
That's his story too. He wrote that story.
I know the story about it.
It's from his backyard. That's a great franchise, regardless of how you look at it.
Steve, I thought you were going to say Moneyball, to be honest.
That's what I thought you were going to say too. I know you love
Moneyball, and I think Pablo's going to say The Sandlot, if I had to guess. But
well, you know what? That's kind of weird that you said that. Yeah, I am going to say The Sandlot, and honestly, I didn't think anybody was going to know that I was going to say that. But I do love The Sandlot. I love Benny the Jet Rodriguez. I don't know, everything about it. I love Wendy Peppercorn. Just there's something about it. I love baseball, and that's something. That's a movie that came out, and I remember watching it with my dad. He's like, "Hey, let's watch this Sandlot movie." I didn't know what it was about, and I fell in love with it. It's one of my favorite movies. But honestly, I think that this is a question that it shouldn't be just your favorite sports movie of all time. It should be a top tier list, similar to the ones that we put on our Instagram. And I know most of my movies are going to be baseball related, but I would just love to sit down and make that list. Another honorable mention before we turn it over to Andrew or Zonak, I'm not sure. The movie The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke is a phenomenal movie.
Now you're speaking the language. That's a fantastic movie.
That is a movie where people talk about how wrestling is fake. I will show them that movie and say, look, it's not fake. It's predetermined. It's staged. But I'll tell you what, everything that goes on in that ring is very much real. And you go and you watch The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke and Marissa Tomei. That is a phenomenal movie, and I recommend it to anybody who loves sports.
And another thing about The Wrestler real quick is that it was filmed in New Jersey, and a lot of the scenes are in Asbury Park. So that was really cool seeing stuff I've seen millions of times. I'm just walking by on the Asbury Park boardwalk. I'm like, I know that place. So, it was cool seeing that too.
That's a great movie. The Wrestler.
I'm surprised Field of Dreams doesn't make your top three.
Field of Dreams, I've seen parts. I've never seen the whole thing. And
never seen the whole thing?
People tell me it's the greatest baseball movie ever created. I'm sure I would love it. I just have to sit down. I might do that, while I'm quarantined in my basement.
Yeah, Pablo, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, we'll release a tier list. I know Pablo just gave me that idea. Let's get to Andrew before we end the show.
I mean, it kind of sucks going this late because you kind of mentioned all the movies. I mean, when you think of sports movies, it's mainly just baseball and boxing, at least like American sports. Like I know there's like Miracle for hockey. I don't know, like name a soccer movie besides Kicking and Screaming.
Space Jam.
Space Jam, but that wasn't like a very serious movie. But I mean, if I have to name my favorite, I mean, we kind of touched on it a little bit. I mean, maybe not my favorite, just probably the one I watched most recently because I watched like Sandlot, Field of Dreams. Those are both phenomenal baseball movies. All the Rocky movies are not, besides maybe not Rocky 3, but most of them are phenomenal.
Where's this Rocky 3 hate coming from?
It's Mr. T, bro. I'm telling you, man. He's annoying.
Anyways, I probably have to go Moneyball, just because it's the one I probably watched most recently, and I thought that was a phenomenal movie. And just baseball has a slight edge over boxing for me. So I mean, my second would probably be Longest Yard, but Dan already said that. Third would probably be either Rocky 2. I don't know. I think I like Rocky 2 more than Rocky 1, but
yeah.
I actually forgot. I forgot a couple movies. I forgot. Obviously I love Happy Gilmore and Caddyshack. Those are two great golf movies, very funny. And the last one, Talladega Nights, very funny movie. I mean, these are fake things that are happening, which I like more of the fake than the real stuff.
I thought you were going to say Talladega Nights originally when you first started talking.
I mean, it's definitely not my favorite Will Ferrell movie. That's for sure. Not even close, but I think it's a good movie. It's not the best movie, but it's definitely a good sports movie, I guess.
Yeah, Will Ferrell has been in a lot, like semi-pro too. And you forgot The Waterboy. You got to remember The Waterboy.
Waterboy is a classic as well with Adam Sandler.
Can I squeeze one, maybe two in there? I love the Benchwarmers.
Yeah, that's good.
Benchwarmers, obviously, when Carlos comes onto the screen, it changes the entire movie.
I am 12.
I am 12. He has
with
a 6-pack of beer.
Another movie that I do like, and I know I'm gonna get heated. Matter of fact, I'll save it for the tier list.
Well, let's hear it real quick. You can't leave a cliffhanger like this.
Yeah.
Man. You know what? I love this movie up until the end. The movie Fever Pitch, regardless of how the movie ends, it's a phenomenal movie.
Bad. I don't like Fever Pitch.
It's just a good movie. It's a good baseball movie. It's something where if it were about the Yankees, it would probably be a top 5 movie of all time for me. That movie's it's perfect. Aside from the end, obviously, I'm gonna get killed. The Red Sox win the World Series. The Yankees blow the horrid 3-0 lead in the ALCS. I know, but that's a fantastic movie.
How crazy is that? They blew a 3-0 lead. Who would have thought?
I'll tell you what, though, we still blew that lead, and we still won the World Series before the Mets did. So
there we go.
There's
always
something. All right. Well, that's all we got for episode 21 of Before the Score. We'll be coming out with that tier list for you. Make sure you check out a couple things real quick. You got Villain Media @OfficialVillain, Mock Gaming. These boys are going to be on this some gaming thing tonight that I'm not doing. But yeah, check that out. Zonak, our producer, he's got his own channel too at Matt the Sniper. You'll see us retweet some of those things. And next week we'll be predicting Money in the Bank. So that's all we got. Episode 21. Thanks for listening.